Hello, I am New York Times bestselling author Jessica Day George, and this is my very first BookTube video. That's right, I've decided to become a booktuber because, well, if you know me, have ever seen me talk, know anything about me, you know that I love books. I don't just love to write books, I love to read books. I am reading all the time. I have several books going at once. In fact, let's make that a feature. So first thing, I'm going to tell you what I'm reading right now. I am listening to the audiobook of The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. I am reading the physical books, The Mighty Bite by Nathan Hale and Made in America by Bill Bryson. And I am reading aloud to the family at night, The Grey King by Susan Cooper. So that's what books I'm into right this minute. But I decided, because I've tried doing a newsletter and I've tried doing a blog, but anytime I sit down to write about books, I always feel like I should be writing a book. So I really struggle with that. Like, I have done a newsletter and I really had fun doing it, but it was such a struggle to sit down and write words about books that I loved, because I'd rather just talk about them. And every time I started to type up lists of books, and I do love making lists of books, but when I started to type out all the things about them, why were they on this list? Why is this my favorite? All those things, I would start thinking, oh, but I've got to finish the chapter of the book that I'm working on. Or I promised my agent that I would look over those editorial notes before, next week. So it always gets pushed back. So I thought, what if I just went for it and just started recording myself talking about the books, so it can be more like me just talking to you about what do I love? What are my favorite unicorn books? What are my favorite dragon books? What are my favorite romance novels? So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not a person who's very technological at all. I am married to a software developer. It is the bane of his existence. But I just can't. I just don't care, honestly. I just don't care enough to learn about the technology. So he's mildly going to help with this. But these videos will be unedited and they will be short. Those are my two promises to you. They will be first takes. There are no outtakes. Nothing has been edited. Nothing has been smoothed or anything like that. I do have a nice ring light to the side to give me a little glowy. But other than that, if I mess up, if I make a Freudian slip, if I drop a swear, which probably won't happen, but if I do, it'll just be in there. My apologies. And I'm just going to upload it to my YouTube page. I'm not into TikTok and I don't want to be, but it's just going to be on YouTube. And as I look at booktubers, I have some that I love to follow, and maybe at some point I'll talk about the ones that I do follow, or book talks that have been cross-posted to YouTube. The one thing I've always found is the book talks are too short. I'll just be like, wait, what was that title? And it's gone. And the YouTubers, the booktubers, I'll be honest, tend to be a little long for my attention span. When you say these are the my top 5 fantasy books, I just want you to hold them up and I want to see them. And then I don't want a 20-page essay read to me about why that is your favorite urban fantasy book. I just want to know the title, so if I have read it, I can go, yeah! And if I haven't read it, I can write it down real fast. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to have a little theme. I don't know how often I'm going to do this, but I guarantee you they will be 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, but probably longer than 3. So try to find a happy medium so I'm not taking up too much of your time. I will clearly display the books, and also quite possibly just quickly post on my blog. This is a list of the books that I talked about in my recent BookTube. But if you want to hear me discuss them, you have to watch the video. So that is what I'm gonna do. And let's get started, because it's summer and it's so freaking hot outside. I live in Utah. I live in Salt Lake Valley, and it's just too hot. It's too hot for words. I know it's a dry heat, but honestly, my hair looks really good in a humid heat, so it makes it more bearable for me, descendant of Vikings. and British people. We are pale, we are Nordic, we should not go outside in the sun. I also recently learned, by the way, that redheads do not process vitamin D from the sun. We cannot photosynthesize, which means that I am outside in the sun just getting burned and my body is getting zero benefits for it. So I now have to take fake vitamin D and just avoid the sun. And it's so pointless and so horrible. Anyway, so it's summer, but I love to do summer reading. I will make lists of, like, at the end of the summer, the books that I read between Memorial Day and Labor Day are my summer reads, and I usually post about them on my blog and make lists of them and try to see how many books I can read over the summer. One summer I set a goal to read 60 and I read 63 and I was just like so proud of myself. But I also like to read certain books during the summer, certain types of books. Love a rom-com during the summer. Love a book set in the summer, or a book where they are struggling through the desert and it's very hot. Love to read Dune in the summer. It's a great summer book. So I'm going to talk about those, some of my favorite summer books. And I just realized I didn't pull one down from the shelf and I am too short to get it. So with apologies, I will mention it briefly. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do summer books, and I'm actually dressed. My husband was like, "You're going to do this? Are you going to get dressed up every time?" And I'm like, "No, but I was just at high tea with some ladies, and so I'm wearing like a cute little Swedish funky dress." And I'm like, "No, from now on, I'm just going to be in like my usual office clothing, which involves a very large t-shirt, which is usually book themed, so it'll be great. But I will wear makeup because I'm not a monster. I won't make you look at that." So. But our summer books, which of course we need to start with A Midsummer Night's Dream, specifically A Midsummer Night's Dream, the Little Master Shakespeare Baby Lit edition by Jen Adams, and art by Alison Oliver. If you do not know these are a fantastic series of board books that Jennifer Adams and Alison Oliver did together, and they're all based on classic literature. Some of them are counting books, some of them are colors and moods and all different things. This one is actually a blackout poem where Jen took the actual words from A Midsummer Night's Dream and she made a little sort of like good night poem out of them. A little fairy lullaby by using the actual words from Shakespeare, going through and blacking out all the words until all that was left was this little board book poem. It's fantastic. Love it to pieces. It's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And then, of course, we have Treasure Island. Treasure Island, I don't know what time of year Treasure Island is supposed to take place. I don't really care. Treasure Island feels like summer to me. This like pirate adventure story just feels like summer. There is never a bad time of year to read Treasure Island, but I especially like it in the summer. So here's another board book version of it. This is Little Master Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island by Jennifer Adams and Alison Oliver, and it is a shape primer. So it's like, here is a square. The windows of the house are a square. Here is a heart. And it kind of tells you the story while showing you what shapes occur in the story. These are really wonderful, and I'll probably talk about these every time, and my kids were just obsessed with them as babies. But Treasure Island, the board book. And I'm going to go through, by the way, we will go all the way through from baby to adult books that are on my theme. So these are baby to adult books about summer. Penguin on Vacation. Now, Selena Yoon's Penguin is one of my all-time favorite picture book characters. Penguin and Pinecone is probably the standout. If you do not know that book, it is the most lovely, just the most precious book in the entire world. It's so delightful and so just, there's just a warm-heartedness to it that is so hard to find. But Penguin on Vacation is when our little penguin friend goes on vacation. So obviously this is a great summer book. And he goes on vacation to a nice, hot, warm place, but as he finds, sometimes vacations have to end and it's time for you to go home. Now we have Jennifer Sattler's Pig Kahuna, about two little pig brothers. They're so precious. And they find a surfboard on the beach. They name the surfboard Dave. but one of them is afraid of the water. And so they are trying to use Dave just on the sand and do fun things with Dave on the sand. And eventually they find out that surfboards have more fun on the water. And then our boys are back. Pig Kahuna Pirates. Also Pictures and Words by Jennifer Sattler, where they decide to go in for piracy. Just a precious book and so fun for the summer. And then, of course, what picture book list would be complete without our friend Olivia? Oh my gosh, is there just one of the more delightful characters. Olivia is the little pig. I love her so much. In Olivia Forms a Band is a 4th of July story. They are getting ready for the 4th of July, she and her family, and she is, of course, getting prepared, doing all the parts, getting ready for the fireworks and the big band and all the things for the 4th of July. So Ian Falconer, just a devastating loss a couple of years ago. Ian Falconer passed away, but he left such a wonderful legacy, especially with Olivia. And then, of course, Treasure Island, the actual Treasure Island, fun for all ages. I've read it aloud to my kids a couple of times. This is actually my daughter's copy that I stole. There are so many beautiful copies of Treasure Island. Mine that I have is an old, like sort of, not Penguin Classics, but basically like the classic edition. It's fake leather bound, and it has the original Wyeth illustrations, which I highly recommend. This that my daughter just recently got is a sort of like a reproduction of the original. Like it's the exact same page numbers of the original text, and it has color plates in it, like color pictures. Of course, I can't find one now, but it's Treasure Island, if you didn't know, by Robert Louis Stevenson, and it is in fact, it is the original N.C. Wyeth illustrations. The Wyeths illustrated books, they were also famous oil painters, and they did the most beautiful books. This is a recent, I'm trying to see who the publisher is. Oh, I don't have reading glasses on, whatever. But anyway, if you can find this edition, it's a fairly recent edition that they've done. Hardcover, it was an affordable price, beautifully sprayed pages, beautiful colors, original reproductions of all the original pictures. So worth it, fun for all ages, good read aloud, good read to yourself, Treasure Island for the summer. So now moving on to middle grade, of course, we have One Crazy Summer, which, as you can see, won all the awards by Rita Williams Garcia. If you don't know, this book about 3 young Black girls who head out to the summer to the San Francisco Bay Area to spend the summer with their mom, whom they have not seen since the youngest was a baby. They have been raised by their grandmother and their dad. And so there's a lot about family, about sisterhood. It is also during the 60s. The mom is involved with the Black Panthers and stuff. It's very, very interesting. A lot of civil rights moments in here, but it feels very summery. It's not heavy. It's delightful. I still think about this all the time, and some of the things, like they rated TV shows by how many Black faces they saw in those TV shows. So they had like their TV viewing is scheduled out by how many times you see a Black face on the TV, and I love it so much. It's a really beautiful book if you haven't read it, and it's the first in a trilogy, which is wonderful. Moomin Summer Madness. I love the Moomins. I love Tove Jansson, a Swedish author. Well, her family is Swedish, raised in Finland, and she wrote this whole series of books. There are comics, there are picture books, there's now a TV show about the Moomins, these little fuzzy hippo things that live in the woods in Finland. They are delightful. They are just the most cozy and delightful characters. Moomin Summer Madness is their adventures during the summer with the midnight sun and all that entails. Wonderful. I read this aloud to my kids every couple of years. We all just adore the Moomins, and this is an especially great one from their series. I'm looking at my time and thinking I better book it along if it's going to be under 20 minutes. Rainy Nightingale by Kate DiCamillo is a fabulous book about a girl who sets out to win a beauty pageant during the summer, and the friendships that she forms and what happens with that beauty pageant and what her reasons are for being in the pageant and all those things. Just a gorgeous book, so heartfelt, but also fun, funny. I don't like things that are too heavy in the summer. T-Bags, t-shirts, coat, and suit. I'm a huge E.L. Konigsberg fan, and I am a big proponent of her books that nobody seems to know about. If you don't know her, she wrote from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, the Newbery winner. She wrote Jennifer, Hecate, Macbeth, and Me, Elizabeth. She wrote The View from Saturday, one of just the greatest middle grade books of the last few years. And I don't know what year we were in, but anyway. But this is one of her ones that I feel like gets overlooked, about a girl having to spend the summer helping her aunt run basically a food truck. Before that was really a thing, her aunt essentially pulls up to businesses. It's that kind of food truck where she grills burgers and hot dogs and stuff for guys working construction. And this girl who doesn't like to get her hair wet and doesn't like to be sweaty, and she always has to look nice and stuff like that. And she is spending the summer with this aunt working in this hot, sweaty grill. And just some things happen. She finds out about her aunt's youth and family friends and about her family, and it's just really lovely. And I don't feel like people don't know this one, and it's from, I think, the 90s, I'm gonna say, but it's really great. Tea-back t-shirt, coat, and suit. Caterpillar Summer by Gillian McDunn, a recent book, wonderful. Two kids who were not intending to, but end up going to live with their grandparents that they rarely see shortly after their dad dies. And they thought they would be spending the summer with their mom, who just seems to be working all the time. The dad has recently passed away, and they thought they were going to spend it with mom, and mom sends them to live with her parents for the summer, even though they have barely ever seen their parents. Their dad was black, their mom is white. And so, like, the grandparents don't understand. They don't understand some of the things that happen to these kids, and they don't understand, like, how to take care of the little girl's hair and some things like that she's concerned about. And then also, delightfully, there is a fishing contest. It is a beautiful summer beachy book. The Names They Gave Us by Emery Lord, who is a wonderful contemporary young adult author. She writes, when I say contemporary, I mean set in new modern times. No fantasy, no sci-fi, just stories about very realistic teens and the things they face. And she's always fun, always kind of funny, even when she's covering some serious topics. She's done things with mental health and being raised by teen parents and all kinds of things. And The Names They Gave Us is a summer camp book. It is a book about summer camp counselors and all those things, and she deals with really heavy topics sometimes, but honestly, she deals with it in such a light-handed manner and with such humor and love that they are always great, and there's always a little romance in there as well, and just really fun. And that is for teens. We're starting in on the teens. An Abundance of Catherines, which is my favorite John Green novel, and you will note when I got this was some kind of special promotion for the summer that was just $3.99. Score. But this is hands down my favorite. I like The Fault in Our Stars and all those are great, but this one is a delight. A kid, the summer after he graduates from high school, and he is basically a child, what do they call him? A child savant, basically. He is a mathematical whiz, but it's sort of like, what do you do when you've now graduated from high school and you are no longer a child, but you are a child genius? You know, sort of like being a child actor. And what do you do when you enter that awkward phase? He is really good at math, but he hasn't actually done anything super groundbreaking. And he's not really sure what he wants to do with himself. And if being an adult math genius is really what he wants. And it is just hilarious, for one thing, but also really makes you think about finding your own place in the world and what you're going to do with yourself. An Abundance of Catherines, my favorite John Green book. Royals by Rachel Hawkins. I am not 100% sure this takes place in the summer, but frankly, I don't care. This book feels like summer to me. It's one of those that just feels like summer. A girl is sort of an alternate history of England, and it's sort of like, what if you were Kate Middleton's younger sister? Her sister, who is American and is just very always put together, graceful, discreet, all the things that make a great princess. She is engaged to the Crown Prince of Scotland. If they have their own, they're still their own monarchy. And so the whole family has to go over for the summer and find out all the things that is going to entail with having a member of their family move from Florida to Scotland to become royalty. Super fun, flirty, romance, rom-com, great stuff. And I feel like it takes place during summer, but it's England, so obviously there's rain. This is another, in my opinion, overlooked classic. This is sci-fi. It is sort of what I would consider new adult. A group of friends who have just graduated from high school, and they decide to move out to the one friend, the narrator. He has inherited from his grandpa's farm and house. And so they decide to go live over the summer, and why not? No adults in sight. They're 18 years old, and they decide to live in the grandpa's farmhouse. And lo and behold, there is a really crazy secret about the barn. If you go out the back door of the barn, you are not in Kansas anymore. And it is wonderful sci-fi by Stephen Gould, who also wrote Jumper, which is hands down one of my favorite science fiction books, which I'm sure I will be talking about later. Please ignore the terrible movie that had Hayden Christensen in it. But Wildside is fantastic for the summer, and it all takes place over a summer after high school. Moving on to the adult books, we have Carl Hiaasen. Carl Hiaasen, the gem of Florida. The man has written I don't know how many dozens of mysteries, murder mysteries, set in the Florida Keys. They are hilarious. They are weird. This one features someone being bludgeoned about the head by a frozen iguana. I mean, just nutty stuff, just indescribable. A great one too for summer is Tourist Season, because it is specifically talking about summer in the Keys and these murders that keep happening. But the one I had to hand was Basket Case, which has someone being beaten, I think to death, by a guy pulls a frozen iguana out of his freezer and starts beating up an intruder with it. You had to be there. You have to read it. It's great. Carl Hiaasen, fabulous, a favorite. He also writes children's books, like middle grade books like Hoot, Flush, Wrecker, which is a recent one, wonderful. So if you're looking for a great like middle grade or young adult book that is just really funny and always has a great mystery in it, look for Carl Hiaasen's children's books. If you, an adult, are looking for a great adult book, Carl Hiaasen's adult books. I have to talk about my darling friend Graham, who has also passed away. Graham Joyce is a British author who wrote some very unusual and very gorgeous fantasy books. I guess you'd call them fantasy. They're almost what I would call magical realism, except that is specifically referring to like Latino authors. But Graham Joyce wrote some of the weirdest, wildest stuff, but it all takes place in very mundane places to very mundane people. There are no wizards. There are just grandmothers offering you cups of tea and saying like, oh yes, the ghost down at the beach. We see him every Thursday, you know. So The Ghost in the Electric Blue Suit is a wonderful book that is based on his own experience he had in college in the summers. He would work at sort of like a summer camp or like a summer resort. And the ghost that appeared there, and his sort of horror light. I'm a real baby when it comes to horror, so I wouldn't call this horror. And sort of fantasy light, and just sort of about being a young person in the summer, but is definitely for adults. But Graham Joyce, wonderful author. Ghost in the Electric Blue Suit. And of course, Tove Jansson, again, creator of the Moomins. She also wrote other books. This is the summer book. Obvious choice. Just a wonderful book about a young girl, like a little girl, 10 or 11 years old, and her grandmother. And every summer they spend it entirely on the tiny island. See their tiny island? A tiny island with their single cabin on it that the family owns. And it used to be that the whole family came down there and it was a big deal, and oh, we have a summer island and we spend every summer there. And now everyone's grown up or passed away, they're too busy, and so only the grandma and the daughter are left. And this is just about sort of almost their last summer that they can go there by themselves, because the grandma is getting older, and just the things that happen to them over the summer. Nothing super dramatic, but it's just their beautiful summer on this island together. And then, of course, Gidget. You gotta have Gidget. Gidget by Frederick Kohner is sort of a novel and sort of nonfiction. It is based on his own daughter during the late 50s, early 60s, when she was a teenager, and they lived in California, and she got into the surfing scene. And it starts out, there's a foreword this was a recent reprint, and the writer of the foreword actually is went down and surfed with the real Gidget. She was like 70 at the time, and she still surfs every day in California. I don't know if she's still with us now, but this spawned a series of movies and then a TV show starring Sally Field as Gidget. And it was all about just the stuff that she did with her friends every summer in California. They went surfing, they went to drive-in movies, they rode their cars, you know, raced their cars up and down the boulevards and things like that, and went and got hamburgers at the beach. It was like a new thing, like to go get a burger at a roadside stand and stuff like that. And this is just the story of Gidget and how she got into surfing and met her boyfriend, Moondoggy. That's right, Moondoggy. Delightful book. I would say, honestly, teens and up, it's very clean. There's no swearing or anything like that in it. And it's just a wonderful book. And he actually, the author, freely admitted that he basically used to, with her permission, watch his daughter and her friends surf. He used to listen in on their phone conversations. So he captured the lingo, the slang that was coming up, and it's all very authentic to that time period. It's so fun. It's so delightful. And I used to watch reruns of the Sally Field Gidget series back in the day, and they were so cute. So Gidget by Frederick Honer is my last recommendation for the summer. We're at 26 minutes. But I had to introduce myself, and I promise I'm going to keep it under 30. But anyway, that's my first BookTube video. Oh, clap for the dragons back there. Clap for the books. And I will be seeing you soon, I hope, with another one. Thank you.